My guest this morning is Phill Isaacs. Phill has been a member of Rotary since 1973. He's recently been awarded the Order of Australia Medal. He's a committed environmentalist, but I've got Phill on the program today because I want to hear about his work in Vanuatu. Phill has come up with a program to place computers in schools across different islands in Vanuatu, and he has mobilised many people here in Australia to assist and to go with him and to be part of that project. Many of those people have been young, so it's a fabulous thing that he's doing. As a Rotarian, he's got that ethos to give back to the community, and he lives his life in that way. So, Phill, thanks for coming on the program today, and a big welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Ian. It'll be a pleasure to have an interview with you.
Just quickly, if you don't mind, your environmental work, I know you work locally, you're an avid bushwalker, you've been down to Tasmania pulling out weeds. Where does that come from? Have you always been a keen naturalist type person?
Oh, very much so. It started all with bushwalking, I suppose. Someone found some willows growing in the Colo, and a group got together with the rangers from National Parks and Wildlife Service. We decided to try and get rid of the willows. In fact, we got rid of them. And because it's a remote area in the Colo, we went down by rafts and all sorts of other ways of getting down there. And because of that, in the World Heritage Area in Tasmania, they had a problem with a weed called sea spurge on the coast. And the rangers have been trying really hard to get rid of it and had some real problems. And one of the people on that World Heritage Committee was a ranger from Blue Mountains. And he said, look, I've got a remote area team who may be interested in looking at it. So they said to us, would you like to come down and spend a week on the south coast of Tasmania? We'll fly you in by helicopter and to see if you can do something about these weeds. And we spent a week there and got rid of a number of sites, and then decided we'd set up a group to attack them in a much bigger way. And that, in fact, grew so that now 99% of the weeds on the south coast, this particular weed, which is an eco-transforming weed, it has been eliminated. And it showed that activities on remote areas by bushwalkers and volunteers can really work.
Yeah, that's fabulous. We live in this beautiful world and we need to look after it. And you are in a very beautiful part of the world there in the Blue Mountains. Right now I'm locked down in suburban Sydney and can't travel outside of my 10K radius, but as soon as I can, I'll be taking a trip to the mountains.
Good. Yeah, it's great being here. We get out virtually every day and go walking in different walks and not too many people around.
So you've got a household full there with kids learning online and grandkids, and it's an interesting time we live in. And of course, some of the work that you've been doing in Vanuatu, you've needed to put on hold because of the pandemic and inability to travel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got 7 people here, so census night last night was interesting.
Well, let's talk about Vanuatu. How long have you been involved in going there, and what need were you seeking to address?
Okay, I'll start from the beginning. Probably several years ago, we were working with another Rotary Club, Kenthurst Rotary Club, building schools, and also Salamander Bay Rotary Club, building schools in the highlands in New Guinea, in Goroka area. And the schools were being built. They were great. There's no power there, but we needed to have some sort of computers, bring them up to the 20th century at that stage. And we decided to look at how we could make computers and solar power work together. And we developed a system with TAFE at Castle Hill, which allowed us to run up to 10, maybe 15 computers off solar power. So we installed one system up there in New Guinea, and then because of TAFE, we wanted to be able to involve students. And unfortunately, New Guinea is such that it's not the place to take young students. So the next possible place was Vanuatu, and we found a school right up in the Solar Group, right up the very north, the Banks Group of Vanuatu, where at the Rotary Club of the Hills were building a school, and they wanted solar power, and they also wanted computers. So that was a really good way to start. We did that installation, and that developed so that we then looked at other islands. We looked at Tanna and looked at Espiritu Santo, and now we've put in it's about 15 systems. So it's solar power plus computers in very remote schools that don't have power, and we've taken students across there to do the installations. And I think the students have learnt more than they've in fact taught.
This must be revolutionary for an isolated community on an island in the far-flung Pacific to go from having no power, no devices, to suddenly having computers and having them being run by, I imagine their panels, are they, that are fixed to some sort of structure? Can you tell me how it works?
Yeah, sure. Probably a good example is on the island of Tanna, and a village at Port Resolution, which is on the other side of the island to where the airport is, and a beautiful little area, no power, mainly thatched roof villages, but it's called Port Resolution because there's a beautiful, safe port there, and it's where Captain Cook came in, and or it might have been Lieutenant Cook at that stage, and got fresh water, and it's a beautiful port. And so there was a school that was built there by the students and Rotarians from Canberra, one of the Canberra suburbs, and they put this beautiful school there, and they wanted to have computers. So we needed solar power, we needed the computers, we needed benches, and we got the the solar system was developed and is being done for us by a company in Riverstone in Sydney, and they develop a system whereby we can collect the power on the solar panels. It goes into batteries. The batteries then distributed to 15 computer sites around the classroom, and that has been built for us at cost by this fantastic company in Riverstone. It's not their business, but they're doing it for us because they know what we're doing. Now, they needed benches in that school. So the master builders in Canberra funded a student, an apprentice, to come across and build a bench. And what we've got is an absolutely amazing bench. It was built from nothing, and all the computers were put in, and the students came across and trained probably 100 students on how to use the computer, very basic use of the computer. And the computers are all programmed with Windows 10 and Office 2010, which was given to us by Microsoft at $10 a computer. So everyone has come to the party. It's been a really fantastic project.
It's wonderful to think how a team can come together like that. You've got perhaps yourself as a visionary and a founder and a coordinator and a networker. You've got business people who are willing to provide their expertise at cost. You've got large companies who are willing to sponsor X, Y, Z. You've got a student body who are looking for fresh experiences and they are keen to travel and to make a difference. And you've got educational institutions and you've got Rotarians and you've got funding, and everything needs to come together to make something like that work. Even to the fellow who is an apprentice carpenter who's making those desks. That's a really fabulous story. What's been the difference in that village in having the school and having it computer connected?
Well, let's say having the school for a start. It's the only solid building in the whole village. And Cyclone Pam went through there several years ago and destroyed virtually all of the buildings in the whole village. and all of the people, all the villagers went into the school, which was solid, and there were 200 people in this virtually small, solid school. And it really saved their lives. And after that, when everything had been blown away, the government, New Zealand government, gave them seeds and provided food for them. And the school was used to distribute the rice and distribute tinned fish for them to survive on. So that alone has been one really great thing that's come out of this total project. As far as the computers are concerned, the school now has been set up as a centre for IT on the island of Tanna. So it's going to develop a lot more and allow the students to really come into the 21st century.
I remember that cyclone going through and the devastation it caused, and it's wonderful to know that was in existence, and that was one of the reasons why lives were saved. I didn't know that part of the story, so that's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, we were over there about a month after the cyclone hit, and the devastation was horrendous. Luckily, the solar power system, everything worked. So we still had computers working after the cyclone.
So these are they like large solar panels? I'm trying to visualize how big they are, where they actually go, and how it serves 15 computers. Are they all connected into the solar panel?
Okay, well, we get the solar panels, they're varied between 4 and 6 panels on the roof. We put them on the roof of, usually look for the most solid building in a community, and in some areas there are solid buildings. So we put the solar panels up. The wires go from there down into a battery system, and there are 2 big batteries. I forget what size they are, but they're quite large batteries. We get those locally in Vanuatu. It's cheaper getting them there than freighting them across from Australia. And then there's a panel which links everything together to make sure that it all works. It's a 24-volt system. It has an inverter there that allows it to work on 24 volts, and also allows you to, if there's no sunshine, which can happen, it allows you to recharge the batteries from a generator on the outside. And from there, the power goes to all the computers with cigarette lighter sockets.
Yeah.
So we plug in the computers by cigarette lighter socket. And also they can recharge, and what it's probably used more for is recharging mobile phones in a lot of the areas.
I can imagine these kids, they open up this computer and there's lights appearing on the screen. And what's their English like? How do you do the instruction?
Okay, in Vanuatu, it's about 30% Francophile. So we have instructions both in English and in French on the computers. Now, the teachers are usually good in English. There are a couple that we've been to that can only speak French, but and the kids are just so shy they won't talk. But eventually you get them talking, and they will speak to you in English. So they've got 3 languages there. They've got Nivan, they've got the normal language, they've got English, and they've got French.
So the students who go to help train these school children, they can communicate and be understood by them.
Yes, definitely. And the students are far better at communicating. The TAFE students are far better communicating than the Rotarians. There's much better a link between them. And the TAFE students also play soccer with the kids, which really brings them and opens them up.
I'm sure the lives of those TAFE students are wonderfully enriched by having this experience of volunteering and being in such a beautiful part of the world. What feedback do you get from the students? Perhaps let's talk about what expertise those students are bringing and what feedback are they giving to you?
The TAFE students, they go over with IT knowledge. They're normally certificate for IT students. So they know a fair bit about IT, but they don't have the good relationship with a customer. And this really changes their attitude with relation to a customer, knowing they've got to be able to communicate what they're trying to do and make sure that what they have communicated is in fact working. I'll also give you a link to a video of one student who went to Solar, who made a video, and he got all the students in the school to put on performance in normal Vanuatu environment. They were playing drums, they were dancing, they were doing water and music. Absolutely amazing. And he came back and said he was in fact a Pakistani refugee, and he said to me that it was the best 7 days he'd ever had in his life. You know, when they go to Vanuatu and they go to the villages, they know that if people don't grow their own food, they don't live. And it's a totally different environment. There are no toilets, there are no good fresh running water, and it's really an environment where the TAFE students learned. And last year we were looking at going back at doing the next installation, and because we didn't have government funding, we went back to all the students who had been over there and asked who would like to go, but they'd have to pay their own way. And we got oversubscribed with the students. They just want to go back because they can see both they have fun and the benefit they're giving to these kids.
Yeah. So when you started out, and maybe, you know, you might just give us a bit of a timeline of when you started and where we're at now. But the kids were originally, they were sponsored by the government, and then the government stopped their funding for whatever reason. I don't know whether you know why. And now you really are depending on donations to sponsor these students to continue to go and to maintain this partnership.
Definitely. Right back in the very beginning, let's go right back to how it all started. Rotary, I was with the Rotary Club at North Ryde. And in North Ryde, there are a whole lot of technical areas like Oracle, IBM, Google's not in that area, but it's close by. There's Macquarie University, and there is TAFE, and also places like Optus. And in Rotary, we brought kids in from Western New South Wales, from West Wyalong, from Orange, from Temora, from a lot of the Western areas to see what IT could do in life. They don't get to see these big operations. And we took the students 6 at a time around these different places. And we took them to Macquarie University so they could see what was available in IT for at the university, and also took them to TAFE. And TAFE at Castle Hill really showed the students what they could do and what sort of courses were available. And the TAFE teachers there said, look, we're trying to develop sustainable computers and work on low power. And they helped us develop these computer systems. And that's how the relationship really developed. And it was just developing into a really fantastic relationship with TAFE at a lot of Western areas like Wentworth Falls, who I work with now very closely, Riverston, Blacktown, and Mount Druitt. All those areas, these are where the students are coming from now.
So what started for one thing has now become something that's they're now taking that opportunity that they were given and passing it on in another part of the world. Exactly.
It really is. There's one student I can think of now, Sam Dokaporo, who he's Somalian, and he has a fantastic story on his own, working with Somali group and students who are getting out of hand. But he now is the head of IT at John Holland. And he wants to give back, and he, in fact, rebuilds computers for us when we need them rebuilt. Things like laptops. You know, it's developed into a lot more than just computers for Vanuatu. We need laptops for people in the Philippines, in Timor-Leste, in Madagascar. And people are giving to Rotary a lot of laptops, and we rebuild them and give them back so they can be taken to places like Nepal, Timor-Leste. I think we've probably done about 300 laptops that go out to these areas. So, and people like the students are now willing to really work on them and do it for us.
What advantage is there for a student in a developing country to be given computer skills? It's an obvious question, perhaps, but on a practical level, how does knowing how to use a computer and access those programs make a difference for them?
Well, when you look at my grandchildren are here now, they're 6, 8, and 10. And their ability to use computers is amazing. They can teach anyone so much. They just know them backwards. Whereas you go to Vanuatu, these students have never seen a thing like a computer. And it at least gives them an entrance of what a computer can do. We teach them mainly focus on word, just on spelling and on sentence construction and writing letters and things like that, which is something that students here take for granted. So it's a tremendous advantage. And when you eventually start talking to the kids in Vanuatu, what do they want to do? Most of them want to get off working on their farms and do things like become computer experts or work in the telecom industry, when they can see Digicel and other companies coming in, or they want to become airline pilots. And there's some tremendous things that could happen. I don't think we've seen any students so far going right through to become computer experts, but I'm sure we will before too long. And setting up the Port Resolution School as an IT hub on Tanna will in fact do that. Look at a lot of the teachers in these areas. Those teachers are ex-students, so they haven't had the expertise either. There are some areas being set up in Port Vila, and we've had a lot of interaction with the Department of Education in Port Vila, especially the IT group, and they're willing to really help us however they can.
Yeah, so there's many opportunities within the chain of islands that make up Vanuatu for these students to be given opportunities to use the skills that they're discovering and developing in these far-flung little villages through the projects that you've got going. And tell us about who's on the ground in these places, because it's very important, isn't it, to have a good relationship and a good person or a team who host you and make it possible for this project to continue.
Yeah, that is very important. Well, there are two areas. One is working in Vanuatu, and the second is sustainability, making sure things continue to go. You see many areas where technology is thrown in a community and is not backed up. So what we do, we work with the Rotary Club of Port Vila and the Rotary Club of Luganville. There are two Rotary clubs in Vanuatu, and they help us to get there, to make sure the visas are issued, and the accommodation, they work on that too. And they work with the Department of Education, both in Port Vila and in Luganville, to make sure that we can work at the schools, that we have all the right qualifications to do it. And then what we've been doing every year, going back and putting in another installation, at the same time sending students to all the previous installations to make sure they're working. And luckily we haven't had too many problems. We've had to replace several batteries because the batteries have been used too much. But otherwise, the computers have all worked extremely well. And there are several variations of computers we've put in there. It's important that we don't have fans within the computers because they'll suck dust in, and a lot of the classrooms are very dirty. They also need to keep at low temperature. They have to be able to work at 90% humidity. So there's a lot that's required in a computer, and a simple laptop will not just do the job.
Can you tell us, where did that design come from? Was that in evolution over a period of years?
Yeah, that's probably one of the major things that TAFE have been involved in. The first computer we put in was one we got out of China. And we had to do a lot of work to make sure it worked properly. It had to be, as I said, run at high humidity, high temperature, have no fans in it so it wouldn't take dirt into it. Over time, it's changed from a computer which is like a huge box down to one which looks half a cigarette packet now. And they're continually improving. And the new computers we've got, and I'll put a photo on for you, is just about 4 times the size of a 20-cent piece. And sorry, about twice the size of a 20-cent piece. It's got everything within it. It's got more power in it than a lot of the PCs we're now using. It's got 64 gig, it stores that. And it's just so small.
And that goes inside a shell with a screen?
No, in fact, we buy the screens from Kogan when they're on special. We buy the computers from Leader Technology. Again, they're probably made in China. And we put on Windows 10 and Office 2010. And everything else, all the solar power stuff comes from their company in Riverston. And the batteries, as I said, come directly. We buy them in New Guinea, in Vanuatu.
So these tiny little computers, they connect up to the screen, and it's really the screen that's the interface,
Correct.
That the students interacting with. Yeah.
Yeah. So the screen, and then we get a keyboard and a mouse, and it's very, very simple. It's all connected together. Yeah. And the computer just locks on the back of it, and the students are all given a USB, and they store all their information on a USB rather than having it stored within the computer itself. Okay,
so the computers stay at the school, they go home, their USB is their personal
that's
data
got all the information on it. Exactly.
That can connect to any of the computers.
Yep, that's right.
Well, Phill, this has been a wonderful chat, and you are the very first of the Rotarians to be part of this series. So congratulations, and congratulations too on your OAM. It's thoroughly deserved. I've been involved in taking teams into different parts of the world myself in humanitarian enterprises. So I'm very interested in this personally. And so it's been lovely to chat with you, and I wish you all the very best with it. Obviously, we've got some constraints at the moment with COVID and travel and the like, but on the other side of all that, I'm sure 2022 is going to be a very busy year for your project, and it certainly sounds a very worthwhile one for people to support. Thank you so much, Phill.
Well, thank you very much, Ian. And I think that this podcast and the series that you're going to develop will be very beneficial to many groups, especially Rotary. And thank you very much for what you're doing.